It's time now for Harm Reduction. Heard every Tuesday at 7 p.m. with Will Beaton. Cutting Edge Radio, where we'll ask the questions others don't want to ask. Now here's your host, Will Beaton.
Yeah, how do you introduce yourself?
Well, I usually say something like, "Hey everybody, welcome to the Harm Reduction Report. This is Willard TeaBelly here reporting, as I have for the last couple weeks, from my new home in Colorado. And such a wonderful day today because I actually have a guest. I have a studio apartment here, and my first friend who ever dared to come visit is sitting with me now. And thank you for being here very much, my dear homie, T-Time.
DJ T-Time.
DJ T-Time. Yes. Wow. Well, it's really good to see you, dude.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to see you too. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has. Has it been 4 years since we met first?
Yeah.
Well, that was right when I was first getting to know Fort Collins and Colorado. And what I lived there for just the summer then, and I noticed how lovely the weather is. I know now that there are 300 days of sunlight.
Sunshine.
Yeah. Have you grown up in Fort Collins?
I actually grew up in northeastern Colorado, up by like Sterling area. It's just basically south of Nebraska. On a little ranch up there. And then I moved to Fort Collins when I turned like 20 years old, I think, after going to school in Denver. So yeah, I've been in Colorado my entire life.
Nice.
Essentially.
And you enjoy Fort Collins if you're still here.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. It's it's one of the best towns in the world. I think it's actually been rated as like the top, like it usually gets rated in like the top 20 like happiest places to live or whatever. Like when you actually bring those ranks up, or when you actually like rank places like that, it makes a lot of those lists.
Why do you think that is? What are the values of Colorado people that they would want to have such high marks for?
I mean, I really think it's just like the attitudes out here. Like, the culture of Colorado is really based a lot on the outdoors life and on sporting and like being active, and on top of that, like promoting like art and culture and all that. Like we've really got like a really at least on the Front Range, you know, like there's other areas where it might not be that true, but at least like where the big population center is in Colorado, it's all really based on like being active, and you know, and that causes like the benefits of like everybody here, I think, generally being happier, like, you know, a little bit more in shape. Or I mean, it sounds like I'm bragging.
Well,
but you know, like,
I noticed the people that I have met on the trails seem to be like the happiest people, who are also out hiking early some random morning.
yeah.
No matter who they are, they want to stop and chat with you and smiles, automatic smiles. And
I think that's just kind of the culture here, though. Like I think that's like the entirety of like at least like Fort Collins, Boulder area is just like, you know, like people are just like overwhelmingly positive sometimes.
Overwhelming. Does it get too much? Like phony? Like you get so much of it loses its value?
Yeah, sometimes. Every once in a while you do, you know. Like, I mean, it's cool that people are like really sweet, and there's like a lot of very unique people out here. Very genuine people out here that you know, like, that are good people. But then a lot of the times you get like a lot of people that are kind of like passive aggressive and like a little too happy, you know, like,
too happy.
Like, I don't know, just like it's just almost as like a front, but you know, but at the same time, like there's also like a lot of really genuinely happy people too. So it balances out. I think you'd probably find that anywhere.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'm excited. Right behind you, I've got on the wall the map of the Fort Collins natural areas, 50 of them. And going back to our last, we've been talking about wilderness the last several weeks. This is pretty good, you know, for as far as being like a city that has a lot happening, access to wilderness. as you said, some of those are just big parks, eh?
Yeah.
Not exactly wilderness, but there's some nature to be found there in some form.
Yeah. It's very urbanized wilderness. It's not like you would find going further up in the mountains, but it's still there, you know. And like, there's even places along there that aren't really that well marked, but it's like little bike trails and stuff, like a lot of like trees and all that, and like just generally, like, I don't know, just generally like anything you find next to the river, it's gonna be nice and pretty.
Yeah. Have you been to Horsetooth Rock?
Yeah. That's a great hike to take somebody on.
It's very inspiring because it's right on the west edge of town. So driving in from the east, the town is completely flat, you know, just like Grand Forks, G-Funk. It's just a flat, normal G-Funk town. But just on the west edge of town is the beginning of the mountains, you know, the foothills. And first, the big thing you can climb up on is something they called Horsetooth Rock.
Yeah. So it's like a little rock, like, you know, like we call it Horsetooth because it's got like this little, like a couple ridges in it, make it look like a horse's jawline. But, yeah, no, it's a great spot. Like, so when you get up there, especially if you get up there like as the sun is setting, you get to the top and you can look out from both directions and you can see the mountains one way and you can see the prairie in the other way, with like nothing really in between the two except for where you're standing. And it's humbling, you know. Like I think that's like a lot of like going back to like Colorado's culture is, I think, like, or at least I have this philosophy that like you kind of have to be humble when you wake up every day, and like super egotistical, and it's a very humbling experience to have to wake up to like a massive pile of earth every single day, like, for lack of a better term, you know.
Yeah, and a sun shining on you.
Yeah, exactly, you know.
Yeah.
So with humility, but still happy, you know. Like,
nice.
Sunshine is always nice.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder if any of that has to do with what we talked about on the show the last couple weeks about Colorado's legalization of marijuana. Because were they happy before? Are they happier now? I think there probably are statistics that say they are happier now. I don't know if it's directly related to that or not, but they seem to have been happy even before. And still now,
and you know,
Coloradoans.
It's one of those things where it's like, I feel like there was a reason we were the first state to legalize it, because like, you know, like it was already kind of like a part, like Colorado, I think. So I'm not that old, but I think Colorado's always been pretty progressive, at least like on the Front Range, and especially more now in recent years because like of Boulder, and then of course legalization. But what I was getting at is that I think legalization and the state of Colorado, like, I don't think legalization happened, or I think legalization happened specifically because of the culture that we already had here, where it was, you know, like, it's already pretty friendly, like, open-minded place to be. So, you know, like, I think legalization resulted from that. Then, like, kind of like when you're riding like the very crest of that wave, you know, it's like that's when you start drawing in everybody else, you know, like such as yourself, who wanted to be here, where there was like where they would be surrounded by like-minded people. So I think it draws like a lot of the more progressive, open-minded people out of other states, because suddenly we're at the forefront of this massive wave of legalization. So, you know, like I always say, it's just like it draws all the weirdos toward once. But it's cool. It's great. Like,
right.
You know, so I'd say like the state's definitely like, it's definitely more popular now, but you know, like the ideologies kind of remain the same, just because it's people that are attracted to it.
It's strange the reputation Colorado has, at least in my circles of people in North Dakota and Minnesota.
I can only imagine.
What would you imagine our opinion of you to be?
I mean, I've heard stories, like, I remember when it first got legalized, there was somebody that I knew from, like, Nebraska or something like that, and he wasn't saying this, but, like, he was saying the people that he talked to were like, wow, like, is everybody just killing each other out there? Like, just, like, they, like, kind of, like, had this weird conception of, like, a depraved sort of, like, crazy paradise, like, not even paradise, like, this depraved kind of madness world, I guess, Because
That's what they thought North Dakota was? That's what they thought Colorado would
that's what they
become.
thought Colorado was, like, after it got legalized.
Right.
But, you know, like, that's, like, anecdotal. I mean, having lived in Colorado my whole life and hanging out in the friend circles I hang out in, it's just like, oh, well, yeah, sweet, weed's legal. But, I honestly, like, I wouldn't be able to imagine, like, what other people, like, living on the outside of the state must think. You know, it's pretty like ubiquitous here at this point. Like, you know, like
ubiquitous in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. Like most people don't seem to mind. You know, like even if they're not smokers themselves, it's like, you know, like hasn't really affected anything super negatively as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, you've seen the stigma about all this decrease.
Yeah, and I've heard a bunch of stories of people that, like, you know, I mean, you know, like, you see the stuff people post on Facebook, and just, like, all this schlock about, like, you know, like, well, since we got legalized, this happened, you know, but, like, most of the time when you look into it, it's usually a blatant lie, you know, or it's, like, very skewed statistics, generally speaking, it's like we were talking about this before we started, how weed has been used the tax money made from weed has been used to, like, improve, like, public schools and infrastructure, and then you mentioned a couple other things that I can't recall right now.
Provide substance abuse prevention programs for youth and job opportunities for youth and stuff like that. A lot of positive things.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of what got that was how they got the maybe people on board with it, was they really advertised that heavily, like as the bill came up to, you know, I think it's the 19th Amendment, to make that, or Amendment 64, when Amendment 64 came up, like that was like that was in the writing of the bill, was that like the first several $1 million or however much money would be donated to the schools, and then this percentage comes back, and then this percentage comes back. And then what wound up happening was, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, we all got letters. Every Colorado resident of voting age got a letter, or a voting age in 2012, I think. They got a letter that said, we've exceeded the planned budget for the marijuana tax revenue. So we have like X amount of money, I think it was several 100,000 maybe. We have X amount of money left over, so you guys can either vote to let us keep spending this on schools, infrastructure, etc., or you all get a check for like $12.63. So that was cool, and I'm pretty sure that wound up like us not getting the checks. But
yeah, you never got a check.
At least I never got a check. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's really cool. Yeah, and if we can assume that there is going to be a positive impact of all of that money going to these abuse and abuse prevention programs, that is basically going to result in even happier, healthier Colorado people.
Yeah. Because
then that treats them for all kinds of, you know, ailments, not just something related to one substance. It seems like the after effects of making this very healthy thing for the community is gonna just make them even healthier.
I mean, it certainly hasn't hurt, you know. Like, I mean, we have like, honestly, like one of the most burgeoning economies, I think, in the West at least. I mean, I can't quote anything directly, but it's like the economy's certainly not slowing down. Like, there's no like sign of like of real poverty, you know, like you find in like some states in the South, or like, you know, like in the Midwest, or, you know, areas like that.
One issue I just learned about recently in the journalism department is the Denver public schools. I think the teachers were on strike, and that was like a big news. Were you following that while it was happening in the last few years or months?
I'm not sure actually.
Apparently it was a big deal, and yeah, somehow I had sort of not heard much about it. But I also learned that Denver public schools, they own more real estate than any other than anybody else in the whole city of Denver, because they have so many schools and lots of students. But apparently they're losing students because of gentrification and the way a lot of people are moving in, and a lot of families are moving out of Denver, and a lot of students' families are leaving and going to nearby districts, school districts.
I mean,
I don't know much about it or anything, but
well, it's definitely like, you know, it's definitely it's definitely possible. I mean, I'm saying like it's most likely true, you know.
well, that's what somebody
Just
from the DPS just told us like a few weeks ago at this talk, but that's sort of a symptom of the business boomingness of Colorado.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. There's areas like, you know, it's like the classic, like
Just like San Francisco and
yeah, exactly, like well-off white people, you know, so they can live somewhere that they feel is like authentic. Not even just like wealthy white people, I suppose, but, you know, just like there's like wealthy, well-off people. They can come in and like buy up all these properties. They used to be like have like very small value, but now that Colorado's like on the up and up, it's like there's like there's empty lots in Fort Collins that you can sell for like almost $1 million. Like, it's wild.
Wow. Yeah. So I wonder how that will change Fort Collins in the coming time.
I mean, it's definitely gonna get big, you know, like, and it's already noticeable, you know, with traffic and all of this. Like, there's so many more people here than there have ever been before, which, you know, it sounds kind of redundant when you say it, but it's noticeably larger. Like, it's like the city is having trouble keeping up with the pace of the population growth, you know. It's like if you just grow naturally, then like generally like cities will be able to like compensate as they get bigger and bigger. But Fort Collins, Boulder, Denver, like, just exploded. The entire Front Range just is growing like exponentially. And I mean, like the only thing that anybody really complains about is the traffic, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, in all my time here too, I've never heard a Coloradoan complain about something else.
And bike theft. That's another one.
Yeah. You've had some bikes stolen.
Yeah. But it's the only bad thing. It's definitely a pretty white bread town. You know, like
White bread town.
It's like not very diverse.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I've got 3 important places in my life. Well, more than that, but Minnesota area.
Oh yeah.
Some parts of California, and here in Colorado. And these people have a lot in common, but I want to do more to connect them. DJ T-Time.
Yeah, there you go.
DJ T-Time. I'm happy to be talking about music with you finally, because we met at a music festival.
Yeah.
And I remember visiting you between now and those 4 years ago. And I met you and I saw you play in Fort Collins once. You let me use your guitar music in some of my videos I've made over the years, and finally we are hanging out again so we can make some more music together.
About time.
Yes. And I was just explaining to you, we've done a lot of harm reduction music on the Harm Reduction Report, and it'd be cool if that were a thing that people knew about, harm reduction music. Like, if there were a bunch of obviously great harm reduction songs and harm reduction messages in popular culture.
I think you can find them, you know, if you look for it. Honestly, like, I think a lot of people misinterpret, like, there's actually a lot of modern hip hop artists that do that very well. You know, like, a lot of people like misinterpret hip hop as like being like, you know, like, let's get messed up, like, let's do a bunch of drugs, like, do all this, but you know, and that's not to say there isn't the fair share of that type out there, but you know, there's some good artists like Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole who really they speak a lot about like the influence of drugs on youth culture, and like how hard it is to grow up, you know, when you're really broke and not get trapped into that lifestyle, or even just like, you know, how hard it is to like not get trapped in that lifestyle in general. Yeah, in case, just a reference, J. Cole's new album KOD sounds for it's either King Overdose or Kids on Drugs, and it's just all about like how to like it's all about finding something more than just chasing a buzz and just getting high. Like, so there's a lot of good, like there is a lot of good harm reduction music in that genre right now, which is really, really awesome. Like,
wow.
And then
yeah,
you know, and then of course myself, I'm a massive Grateful Dead fan, so I think just music like that can be harm reduction music, even if the message isn't necessarily specifically about things relating to that. I think the music in general is really positive, and I think that in itself can kind of be harm reduction, because, you know, like if you find a love that is in music or in something, you know, bigger than yourself, then it can really result in a lot of positive things, and you know, it'll give you a direction in life that like you might otherwise want to go chase down booze or whatever it is that gets you off, you know, or, you know, just chasing instead of just like chasing a buzz. So
music can help us feel into these things and communicate these things.
Yeah.
And when I asked you if you had any harm reduction songs, you showed me one, and I'm hoping you'll play it for us now.
I
think it's funny that this is the one that you chose to play as soon as I mentioned harm reduction music. So you're making me see this song in a new light, and I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a Grateful Dead tune. It's a classic, you know. Friend of the Devil. I lit out from Reno, I was trailed by 20 hounds. I didn't get to sleep that night until the morning came around. I set out running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, and I just might get some sleep tonight. I ran into the devil, babe, and he loaned me 20 bills. I spent the night in Utah in a cave up in the hills. I set out running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, and I just might get some sleep tonight. To the levee, but the devil, he caught me there. He took my $20 bill and he vanished in the air. I set out running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, and I just might get some sleep tonight. Two reasons why I cry away each lonely night. The first one's named Sweet Aunt Marie, and she's my heart's delight. The second one is Prison Baby, the sheriff's on my trail. And if he catches up with me, I'll spend my life in jail.
Wow, dude. You know, especially ending on that verse there, hearing you play it now, I feel the connection to how this relates to our conversation. It's not insignificant, for example, that Colorado has legalized marijuana, because who knows what the character in that story is even running from the cops for.
Yeah,
we don't know.
No, truly.
The odds are
truly.
It's drug charges. What if he's on the road
who knows,
for
man?
marijuana, you know, like a silly law that's out of place right now.
And if he's like going to life in jail, it's because he was selling it. No.
Yeah.
Well, or it's Texas, you know, like then they don't really like weed in that.
Well, yeah, but interesting. Very nice,
but
dude.
Yeah, no.
Look at the Grateful Dead. You think
good way to look at that? Actually, I never thought of that.
Yeah. You personally, do you feel that their music has helped you reduce the harm in your own life, or see the positivity?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, 100%. That's
What about it? Is it? What would you say about their tone helps them do this? Do they have a sincere tone in their messaging?
Yeah, you know, I mean, honestly, like, it's sincere, and I'd say it's genuine. You know, like, they can be playful, you know, like, they were a bunch of pranksters for sure, but, like, when they were actually singing, like, there was a really genuine sound to the voice, you know, and, like, I mean, especially Jerry Garcia, like, you can't, like, the voice that man had was phenomenal. It was sorrowful, it was mournful, and, like, you know, like, for like, and it's coming from like this like kind of goofy like hippie guy, but when he sings, man, it's just like wow, you know. Gives you goosebumps, like brings tears to your eyes, you know. Yeah. Like it touches your soul, and really like so I mean, yeah. And for me, like, that sincerity like really rang true, and that's why they were like kind of the first songs that I started to sing by myself, just because I wanted to hit that same sincerity, you know, like wanted to hit that same level.
Wow.
That's, you know, I think playing music has really kept me out of a lot of trouble because it gives me something to go to.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, you know, like when times are hard, it's like there's like a lot of people that don't have a good coping mechanism, and like I would be one of those people if I didn't have music. So.
And when you go to it, what is it that it allows you to do? I feel the same way sometimes, that if I guess, you know, I'm needing a way to express myself, but also it's just some kind of about the ritual of it now, almost.
Yeah.
Playing guitar is good for me.
Yeah.
It's like a harm reduction tool itself, just sitting and playing guitar alone for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Like, you don't even have to like honestly, like I'm a pretty sloppy player, you know, just because when I'm playing, like, I'm not really practicing. It's just like, it's just something to like kind of let loose with, you know. So, yeah.
Something to let loose with.
Granted, if I played a little more, I might sharpen up.
Who knows?
Yeah. No, it's great, man.
What
it's really good. And then I was gonna say, like, I did have one song that I wrote that kind of like was also like relating to your message.
Oh, good.
But yeah, and just kind of like about like, I guess kind of about like the last things we've been talking about too. Like, yeah.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah. Word. Alright. So this was a song that was just kind of like, I wrote it like when I was a little bit younger, you know, I was like 20, 21, and just like I'd been really into like the party scene, like the music festival scene and all that, and I was getting just kind of burnt out on it, So I wrote the song about it. It's called Me and George Harrison. It's about getting disillusioned. All right. Come on over anytime, said the girl with the Janis Joplin smile. George wanted to forget his life, so we stopped by to drink for a while. And our lives chased us there, but we managed to lose them at the door. And he passed out with her on the couch at night. I slept on the floor. Me and George Harrison took acid at the party. We were drifting somewhere behind the sun. Me and George Harrison. When I awoke, there were naked folks strewn about everywhere. They were dancing in the kitchen and in the backyard, singing in the air. And Cassidy was there, so I walked up and asked him where I was. He said it's 1967 again, and where have you been, my love? Me and George Harrison took acid at the party. Now we're drifting somewhere behind the sun. Me and George Harrison. Now I don't know where I'm going to, but I know that I can't go home. I've been in love for all my life, but I realize now that I'm alone. George drove off last night and he crashed into the rocks, so I'm just sitting on her sofa all alone and taking shots. Me and George Harrison took acid at the party. Now we're drifting somewhere behind the sun. Me and George Harrison, we saw the truth last night, and from it we're forever on the run. Me and George Harrison.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Holy cow. So, question. What does it mean to be running from the truth?
I mean, I don't know. It's just, I guess kind of with that example, it's just kind of realizing that, like, maybe you've gone too far and maybe, like, everything's not all it's cracked up to be. Now you've got to get away, and then, like, you've got to get away from, like, all the people that you know and, like, all the friends that you made, just because, like, you start to realize that like, the lifestyle that you're leading isn't any good. But then, like, in order to, like, get out of that, like, you really do have to, like, cut yourself off from, like, a lot of people, you know, like, from a lot of people that, like, you used to, like, have fun with, like. So that's kind of what it means in that case. It's like trying to get away from, like, a bad scene, you know. Running from the bad vibes, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, that was wonderful imagery. I was imagining the party. I was imagining, like, 60s decorations in the living room that this party was happening in.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Imagine white carpets, too.
Nice. I'm liking that. I have to write a second song about that.
I used to have a playlist called Harm Reduction, but I remember thinking about it. It was never complete. It was never good enough. Like, I actually couldn't find that many songs about harm reduction.
Right.
Oh, Heroin by the Velvet Underground by Lou Reed. That's a good one. Hurt by Johnny Cash is one people know.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
There's
that's a good harm reduction
There's
song.
another good Lou Reed one. Waiting for My Man.
Mm-hmm.
Just about like waiting for a drug dealer, and it's like, you know, it definitely doesn't paint a very good picture of it. You know, like,
Yeah.
kind of gives you this skeezy imagery of just like literally like sitting on a corner with $20, just like waiting and waiting and waiting. It's like he's never early, he's always late, but you have to wait. And it's like, damn, like, it's like it's not like a very fun picture, you know.
No. No. Their music is.
Darn.
Their music is.
I've got better though.
What about Pink Floyd? Does Pink Floyd music seem? Do you think about that?
I would say so. You know, like they're one of the like. I think Pink Floyd gets like really philosophical and really political a lot, and you know, like maybe in that sense there's harm reduction, but I don't know. As far as like the harm reduction, like your personal life, and within like that boundary, like maybe not quite as much as other people, but you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they cover a lot of topics pretty well, but a lot of it's very. Yeah.
One interesting one is the Pumped Up Kicks song.
Oh yeah, Thoughts to the People.
Yeah, that you know, basically is a song about fratricide and a school shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got such a strange vibe. I don't know if people aren't just trying to listen to the words or what. But it's such an easy song to dance to.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's singing about
Yeah, just like you can, like everybody knows it, and it's extremely catchy.
Yeah.
Then you listen to it and you're like, darn. Shoot, shucks.
Yeah.
I know, that's definitely a good one. I think that's.
I don't know if that's considered. Is that harm reduction? Is that reducing harm? It's bringing up like a story where there's a lot of harm involved, and you'd hope that the characters in this story could have had access to more harm reduction to prevent such a thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely like a very strong message in that song, and like, you know, like it gets, especially in today's political climate, like that's like a really extremely touchy subject, you know, but like gets into what to do about gun control, you know, just like the big argument, you know, and then between that or like better mental health or just like the horrible state of education in the United States, like there's actually a lot that gets into when you think about it, like, and just like, you know, just by bringing up like such a very relevant topic but doing it in such a catchy way, like I think that's like it could be harm reduction, but I think it's just calling like attention to something that definitely needs attention called to.
Yeah. So maybe that gives a form of harm reduction in itself, or at least part of the harm reductionist's job ought to be just bringing awareness to certain topics, and so that people know that they can have an opinion on them. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, like don't act like there's nothing we can do about it. Like,
right.
You know. Like,
and maybe, you know, do be inspired to think that there still is something we can do about it. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to, like, you know, like, I guess like try and do something maybe. Like, I don't know. I can't really speak a lot for myself because I'm not out like marching in the streets or anything. But.
That was nice. There is a music therapy school at the University of North Dakota that was actually, I think the program might have been cut recently. Budget cuts, but before that it was one of the regionally known for like the best program, job placement and stuff, getting people jobs as music therapists.
Yeah. It's definitely an expanding field. I'm pretty sure it's a field that hasn't been around very long, you know. Like I don't think this is something you could do like 15, 20 years ago. It's music therapy. I mean, maybe you could have, but I think it would have been more of a fringe thing at that point than the mainstream that it's kind of turning into.
Right, yeah, I think it is a mainstream thing. But even still, I don't exactly know how it works or
I know, right?
in what context it's really used.
Me neither.
I understand something about that, but I think I have even a couple of friends from high school who do that.
Yeah, no, like I know I've met several people that have degrees in that, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
It's strange. I mean, I feel like I probably know a lot. Like I might know something about it just like naturally by way of liking music, but
Right.
as an actual.
Can you think of other times in your life where music was really important to you and your mental health, your well-being, reduced harm in your life?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think a lot of down times, you know, like, or like I mean, like times where it's like it's really stressful and like really, you know, like messed up over everything. And I think that's where it comes in the most handy, you know, because like listening to music when you're happy is awesome, but listening to happy music when you're depressed, or like listening to music you identify with when you're like down in the dumps, like it's awesome, you know. It's awesome too. Like
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, it's almost more important than the good music when you're happy is just like icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But that music when you're feeling bad is like food for a starving person.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps you cry sometimes too, you know, like just like the last time I got my heart broken, I was listening to Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, and I realized how good of an album that is for when you're like going through that. But yeah, you know, you just like sit there and just like you just gotta like let it all out, man. And sometimes it's easy to get it pent up inside, but I think like music can help bring that out, like especially like if you're listening to good music, the right kind of music at the right time, like brings a lot of that out. And I think people like really need that in order to stay sane, in order to like stay functioning, you know. Like I think there's a lot of people that just try and like bottle up their emotions all the time, and you know, like I think it kind of drives them crazy, like in one way or another. But you know,
This week I was just at my grandpa's funeral and my sister's wedding back in North Dakota. I missed a whole week of class and just returned last night in time to get here and hang out with you and turn in this episode for next week.
Do a week's worth of homework.
Yep. And I had a lot of emotions, you know, and a lot of emotions I hadn't experienced in quite a while. And, you know, I can't remember the last time I cried, actually, really, and specifically, and had a fair amount of that this week, you know, a healthy amount, I think.
Yeah.
And you feel good after you process some of these things and you let your body really experience them. Like it's like after feeling out, like you just went on a really good run or you just ate a really good meal. It's like your body knows something good happened after you let yourself experience these emotions.
Yeah.
Like getting a good sneeze or something.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Just like when you finally get that one sneeze, and it's just like, oh man, like I was like, it's like a really good sneeze. You got like the snot hanging out of your nose, and you're like your eyes are watering, and you're like, this is the most embarrassing thing in the world, but darn, that felt good.
Yeah. Wow.
But gee whiz, what a sneeze.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yes.
Oh no, that's
The
great.
natural
like
feelings, the good feelings.
Yeah.
We gotta try to have more of those.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Which is, you know, like obviously there's a balance to everything. Like you can't go too far in the other direction and just be a complete emotional wreck all the time. I mean, if you are, you should seek help. But you know, like.
Right. There's probably a healthy balance for each of us,
Yeah.
and it's good to be aware of it and not let yourself, push yourself in a place you don't belong.
Yeah, exactly. About self-awareness, man. Jumping into philosophy. Yeah, no, and that's definitely like something that I think everybody should strive to do, is try and find balance. You know, it's like I think a lot of people get driven to extremes through like one way or another. You know, it's like, oh well, like all drugs are bad, I'll never do drugs, or like, you know, all the way on the other end where it's just like, let me get as out of my mind as possible. And you know, like both sides of that extreme are kind of like, yeah, well, you know, like you can have a drink every once in a while, you know, like smoke a bowl, like, you know, but
Different people have different ways of finding balance.
yeah, that's definitely true too.
In college, some of my friends truly needed Adderall as a way to maintain their personal balance of a healthy lifestyle in college. And some of them had been prescribed it since they were young. Some of them were taking it with no prescription.
Yeah.
Also, there are people who should not be taking Adderall at that time, that it threw their balance off.
Yeah.
And all these people actually went through changes in how it affected their balance. So that's must be how it is with everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Most definitely.
Oh, but I'm drinking a big jug of water right now. And this is helping my balance. And this is just pure goodness, foundational material for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No.
I don't know anyone allergic to water.
I had a Manhattan after I got my new job. I was like, yeah, that's balance. Like, gotta celebrate a little bit.
Nice.
Drink a cocktail.
Okay.
Enjoy it. And then, yeah.
Strange how we educate our kids about this. All this stuff. Do you remember being taught about all this stuff?
By teacher, like in the school system, not quite as honestly. I learned a lot more of my own by doing my own research than I ever really got in school. You know, because like the way that I was educated, I think the way a lot of people are educated is, this is bad, don't do this, and it's like, you know, like, okay, fair, like some of it, like there's definitely like some horrible things out there, but you know, like if you're not gonna like actually educate people about it, and all they hear is just you like parroting this like, man, this is bad, don't do this, and they're gonna be like, yeah, well, why? Like I'm gonna do it anyways, and, you know, like that's like how I wound up like doing most of like my own research and figuring more about it than I'd ever learned in school, just because like it's stuff that like they're afraid to teach you about it, but it's like that education, that level of education, and knowing the things that I know, having researched things, like I'm sure has kept me a lot safer than somebody that just dives into it knowing what they know from what the school told them, which is basically everything is terrible, never do anything. And then they're just going to dive into that and just be like, well, I guess like if weed is the same as heroin, is the same as this, the same as that, then, you know, they just jump into it. But yeah, so like if you properly educate people, I think you would see a lot less addiction and probably fewer overdoses and stuff like that. But
imagine, so part of legalizing marijuana in Colorado led to all this extra money for programming in the schools, and some of that is programming explicitly to explain to kids what marijuana is and how it actually affects your health, and just like the information they have on alcohol and tobacco and stuff, only they must have to speak about it differently than they did to us growing up.
Right. I mean,
it was all federally, you know, when it was just all so illegal. Like,
yeah, everything.
The state is acknowledging that it's not so bad and is dedicating funds to educate their kids more sincerely about it now.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like it will keep them safer growing up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think it's also allowed a lot of parents to be open with that about their kids, because, like, I think, you know, like those are the people you really want to be able to be honest with you about, you know, marijuana or drug use or something like that, you know, because like
your parents,
because like before it was legal, you know, it's like you couldn't have it. I don't think you'd be able to have an honest discussion with your kid about marijuana. You know, I'm sure like in illegal states it's probably like this for like, because you never know like that what the kid might go saying in school, and then suddenly like, you know, like you lost your job, like somebody's like reporting you for this or like doing that, so you can never like be honest with your child about it. Whereas now that it's legal, you can have an upfront discussion with your kid about it, and if they go around repeating what you told them, it's not gonna bring the wrath of the law to your front door, you know, or like get you ostracized from society or you know, anything like that.
Yeah, the stigma with the legalization, the stigma seems to have taken a huge blow.
Yeah,
that which kept everyone from being able to talk about it. It's a very strange situation that all these people must be in, living in a state where it's legal in a country where it's illegal.
Yeah.
You know, like, it must be awkward just for the law enforcement and everyone, like, to just not enforce the same laws that they do back home in North Dakota in regards to marijuana.
Yeah, I mean,
it's really funny.
And that's the thing, is like being like Colorado resident the whole time, it's like I only see it from the inside looking out, you know. I don't see what it looks like when somebody from your state moves to Colorado, then suddenly it's like, oh, well, I guess they're a stoner. Like, to get back to what you were saying earlier, like, that's how I imagine the stigma being about Colorado. It's like, if someone's like, I want to move to Colorado, it's like, oh, well, yeah, you pothead, like, of course you do, you know.
Well, it's so funny because my impression of Colorado up until recently, but since legalization, has been like anytime you mention Colorado, the first thing people assume is they bring up the concept of marijuana. Like, I mention I'm moving to Colorado, and they just say something, no matter who they are. If somebody says something about, oh, you know, they've got weed there. They got, you know, they got pot.
With the Midwestern accent too.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you know, bud? There's a lot of cannabis up in that state there, bud.
It's a weird. There are misconceptions. Like, well, I don't know if it's the first thing I think about. And in the beginning, it seemed like kind of a negative connotation with all of that, though I was not totally sure. But now it's changed because 2 years ago they voted to legalize medical marijuana in North Dakota.
Nice.
And they did.
Nice.
But the trick is, it's been 2 years and still it's not actually taken effect, and like nobody has still gotten anything.
Right. And
so it's way behind.
So, well, yeah.
And so now recreational's on the ballot this year, and a survey I saw said 80% of people were going to vote for it, and that was the number that voted to pass medical a couple years ago.
There you go. So you get the same people to the polls, and then you never know. I mean, and hopefully, like, I mean, Colorado was just like the right place, because like, I don't know like what the North Dakota Senate's like or anything like that, but like, we were lucky that we had legislators that didn't fight it too hard, you know. Like, they fought for a lot of regulations, and so they fought to put a hefty tax on it and a lot of regulations on it, and we're still dealing with that. It's relaxed a little bit, but we're definitely still dealing with that. But for the most part, they were okay with letting it pass and like letting it be an experiment to see if legal weed would actually work or not. And I think now, looking back, well, it was 6 years ago that we voted on that, just about 6 years ago, and I think looking back now, there's no movement to go back to the old way. You know, it's like looking back, I think you could call it a pretty successful experiment.
Just recently, I saw the governor, I think, said the headline was like threatened that he could make weed illegal again. I don't know if he's serious about that, but to imagine it, I can't imagine them doing it now that it's made the state so much money.
Well, I mean, the thing that I actually and then again, this is something that I wish I could cite an actual source on it. So I might have heard about that with the governor, but Cory Gardner, our senator, who's an absolute worm, can I add?
Wow.
If anybody's listening in Colorado, get to the polls and like, don't let him pass. But essentially, he's a super Republican guy, you know. But he even told Jeff Sessions to back off on legal marijuana, because Jeff Sessions, like, you know, like, he's crazy anti-pot, and he gets into office, he's like, I'm gonna crack, like, then he's gonna bring the federal law down on all of this, and then like even like our Republican senator told him like don't do that. So
Wow.
so like that was pretty cool. That was one thing where I was like, okay, like because it's one of those things where it's like there's enough popular support for it now, and it's like it's the only thing that I've ever seen that is bipartisan in today's in the political world of today, like especially out here in Colorado on the Front Range, where like you've got a lot of rural people that come into town, you know, and like Fort Collins wasn't an agricultural based community until pretty recently. So you still have a lot of that there, and you still have like a lot of like very conservative rural people, but they come into town and it's like everybody likes to smoke weed. Like I've smoked weed with Trump supporters, like just don't bring up politics, and like it's a good time, but you know, like it's like the one thing where every like, you know, like Republican, Democrat, gay, straight, black, white, like whatever, man. Like everybody likes weed. It's like ice cream. Wow. Or at least I don't mind it, you know. Like it's cool because I don't hear a lot anymore about people who are like the neighbors call the cops on them for smoking or anything like that. You know, like it's cool.
That that must add to just the loveliness of the community, connection to your community here. Maybe that's why everybody's so happy here. This is, as you say, an experiment. This is obviously just one aspect of Coloradoans and their lives and how they've chosen to rule themselves.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I would like very much to talk more with you, DJ T-Time, and to play more harm reduction music. Maybe for next week we can each do a couple more harm reduction songs.
Yeah.
Be opposed to that.
Yeah, no, I'm all in.
Sweet.
Just when I find a night of the week that I've got nothing to do.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story and your time and your presence and your comradeship.
It's been a pleasure.
And thank you, everybody. As always, listen at keqqradio.com or 88.3 FM in good old G-Funk, and find the episodes on the Sandbagger News YouTube channel. So thanks a lot, and scramble on.
Scramble on.
The drug and alcohol thing, it seems to me, comes down to this. Drugs and these things are wonderful. They're wonderful when you try them first. They're not around for all these millennia for no reason. First time, mostly pleasure, very little pain, maybe a hangover. And as you increase and keep using whatever it is, the pleasure part decreases and the pain part, the price you pay, increases until the balance is completely the other way and it's almost all pain and there's hardly any pleasure. At that point, you would hope, then the intellect says, oh, this doesn't work anymore. I'm going to die and I'll do something. But you need people around you who can help you, and you need something to live for. You have to have something to look forward to bring you out of it.